What's going on, YouTube? We're back at it for another video, and today we've got that Lyndell, Royal City, Royal Capital, whatever you'd like to call it. We've got the chapter 2 to that, going to be closing out this area and moving on to the next one with this video. Now we're going to be starting at the lower Capital Church. So we've got more than a few things to cover. Let's get straight into it. Now from that Lost Grace, we'll head over to the staircase on our left, and then we'll promptly take a right. Now, just left of the main staircase is where we're going to heading, and just before we get on the staircase, we need to head over to the right, grab up another one of those gold runes, and then promptly head back up those stairs. Now, there's going to be a couple of knights up here and a few of those common enemies. Would arguably suggest to go for the archer first, because they can pick you off pretty or stagger you, and then those guys with spears, I mean, let's be real. As soon as they get stabby, it's the most frustrating moment inside of this game. But lucky enough, we had one of those broken moments where that knight apparently couldn't even see me in broad daylight, but we were able to get around him. But just past that, we're going to have a lion over here. I'd highly suggest taking out the guy that throws out that fire dust before you face off with the lion himself. Nothing worse than that moment when he throws that dust out, staggers you, and then that lion does one of its leap attacks with that blade on its arm. Can be quite devastating. Couldn't mean the moment you die right there, but after killing that lion, we will get a somber smithing stone out of that, and just off to the right, we'll have another couple of those golden runes, one with a bit more value to it. Now, just beyond that, we'll have a broken down bridge that we'll be able to get across later on inside of the video, but from this point, over on our right is going to be a building that we can drop down onto, but do not jump over to it yet. We have a couple more items we need to pick up. Gold rune on our left and crafting material on our right. There will be a couple more of those common enemies over here, so be aware of that. But we'll go just behind this building. There'll be one more enemy. And I believe we're going to have a few bolts to grab up right here. Now, in the video, I do head right here, but we've already been to this section in the first part. If you haven't seen that, I'll have the first part of this guide linked down in the description. But we'll double back, essentially going back for that building where there was that item on top. We're going to have another stone sword key over here. Drop down. There's two enemies down here. One of them's the fire dust thrower, and there will be one of those archer knights. Very frustrating if you keep getting caught by those arrows, and they can be quite devastating, but good moment to close in. Now right here, I did drop down on this ladder right here. There's going to be, sadly, no secret entrances inside of here, but there is a ladder that we can drop down right next to that Lost Grace that we had with the Fat Boy armor. If you want to just drop that one down, but we're going to be doubling back and heading for that main staircase that we saw on the right just after the Lost Grace we came out of. A couple items to pick up over here, and essentially just a lightning spear knight at the very top. Going to be the most frustrating enemy to deal with right here, but as long as you can close in and get him before he starts striking that lightning, you should be able to make pretty quick work of him. Still can be quite irritating with those shields. Now, we won't be able to get into this doorway just yet. We'll have to double back, and essentially what we're going for is the dragon statue. We need to climb up on top of that, so we'll be heading back to the Lost Grace point. And just before we go down the staircase, we'll need to head over to the left. We've got another smithing stone over here. And then down in this area is going to be a couple of knights. I'd highly suggest taking them out, considering most of them can or will either have that lightning ability or be archers as well, so as soon as you get that aggro on them, even if you try to keep running up that statue, more than likely they're going to be beaming you. Could be one of those moments where you die, just another frustrating moment. So better to get them taken care of before heading up rather than taking the chance. And lucky enough, some of them are quite oblivious, so you can sneak up behind them, make it a bit faster taking them down. But from that point, we'll start heading up this wing, and then we'll need to go over to the right, up its arm, and then drop over to our left. Going to be a couple of crafting material items on our right with a rune arc on our left. Now up ahead, there's a couple of enemies you might want to start to sneak as you go up these stairs. There's going to be a knight on our left, and inside the next room, there will be a guy on the left waiting for us. Got another crafting material right there. He's one of those weaker enemies, so just be sure to dodge and then make quick work of him. Now, just beyond this, we're going to have another one of those Lost Grace points, but just down these stairs and, or just in front of us, essentially, we'll drop down here. And inside here, we're going to have a cane sword. Not exactly sure how powerful that weapon could be, but I'd like to upgrade it just to check it out, maybe just for the comedic effect. But over here, after we take down the trumpeters, we'll have a golden rune and a lever to open that door that we just came from. So that way we've got that full access to the entire area through the main pathway. Now you could jump down right here, but not just yet. We've got a couple of things to deal with. There's going to be another one of those gargoyles over here. Can be painfully irritating, especially when he pulls out his halberd. You know, he's got that 360 attack radius. Now, there is a staircase just off to our left that you can roll into, but there's going to be a crossbow guy down here, so be aware of that. He's going to be sitting on the right. Make sure if you do fall down in there, take care of him, because the gargoyle cannot make it down to us from this point. So if you need a breathing room moment, possibly to get a mana pot or health pot, be a good idea to head down that little staircase after you take that guy out, just to give yourself a moment to breathe and then come back into the fight. It's not the hardest to dodge this guy's attacks, but at the same time, if he pulls at that halberd, it can be very frustrating. But we will get that weapon off of him. Not the greatest. There's actually a gargoyle later on that we'll fight that will give us even better weapons than this guy. But there'll be a golden seed off on our right. Now, at this portion, I did start walking over to the left, but we'll essentially be doubling back to jump down to the area just in front of us. Do be mindful. Not everything you read on the ground is going to be a truthful story. Can be quite irritating, and I've fallen prey to a lot of those trolls out there in certain moments. So, be aware of that. But over there, just down the staircase where we had the crossbow guy, is going to be a smithing stone, and we'll jump down from this onto this rooftop and head over to the left wall, kind of essentially be riding this left side until we get onto some rooftops over here on the right. Going to be a secret entrance. In a way, some people may miss it. I know I missed it the first time, but we've got it a part of the linear path for this guy. Just on our left, on that rooftop, we'll be able to jump up to this building that is essentially a copy and paste of the round table. We'll find a common hammer in here. I believe that might have an Ash of War on it. Need to check on that later, but could be something that has a special ability to it. Now from this point, this is when you start to notice it's pretty much a copy and paste of that round table. Maybe a little foreshadowing when it comes to this certain area. Maybe a few things that could be noticed from it. But essentially in each room we're going to have some type of item to pick up. Be a finger one or finger thingy in there. And in Dung's room, we'll actually get another one of those SEEDBED curses. So if you needed that in order to trade it over to Dung in order to get that sewer key, it's another location you can actually grab one of those up at. I don't know what we do with the rest of them, considering as soon as we give them one, we get that key. Maybe there's something to do with that later on when it comes to the progression of his. But inside of this main room, we'll actually get a pretty interesting sword. It's got a lot of holy damage to it. Has a lightsaber look to it. It's pretty much just, I guess, holy text as the blade itself. Pretty interesting. But I don't have enough faith for that one. But from this point, we'll start heading back towards the location where we needed to. But before we go down, now, I didn't have the footage available, but there is an item from that staircase. We won't drop down just yet. We'll head back on outside and head over to the right. Now, just in front of us, there'll be a couple of dogs in this area, so do watch out for that. Just making sure I clean those up, just so they don't come after me later on. But over in front of us, there's going to be an archer up on top of a type of wooden, or just a raised wooden surface. Now, I thought it was just one knight over here, and next thing you know, I ended up having to fight with this spearman and that bowman just taking me down. Can be very frustrating, as you'll notice very shortly. Constantly getting hit by those arrows. So what you want to do is kind of head along the right side. Don't aggro just yet. Sadly enough, you can't sneak all the way in. More than likely you're going to aggro him, but we'll need to jump up on the leg of this dragon just to get to this archer and make sure we take him out as quick as possible. Then all we've got is the spearman to deal with. Should be able to make quick work of him by this point. Hopefully your weapon's leveled up enough, but we will get a talisman off of him, which will raise our attack power while we're at max health. And we'll also get one of those seal weapons that I believe is for the holy spells. Now, just over on our right, we're actually going to have to make a jump over here onto this rooftop. Now, I don't know whether or not it's just my armor or maybe it's too heavy, but I had to strip down naked just to make this jump. Maybe you will too, but there's a smithing stone over here, and I believe another one of those stone sword keys. Boom, we've got that. And from this point, I believe there's one more thing to grab just behind the dragon's leg itself. And it might be just some crafting material. Boom, that's going to be it. And then we'll be able to head back into the first floor of that building that we already went up into the second floor. That's going to be that replica of the round table. After I've obviously had a good look around when it comes to that dragon, trying to see if I can climb on it anymore. But just inside of this room now, off on the right, you'll see an open doorway. You may want to go in there first. There's going to be a lost grace in there. With my gameplay footage, I didn't get to it until the very end, but it's something to note right there. We will get some interesting looking, I guess, mage armor inside of there, but doubling back and heading over to the left, we're going to have a couple of rooms to get in here, and there's going to be some type of spell book, something to further increase those holy powers, I believe. And in the right room will be just 3 enemies. Nothing else to really grab up inside of here. And then we'll be heading off back into that main room and heading over to the right to open up a door. As soon as we get there, boom. Now on the right side, inside of this hallway, there is a lever. I'm not 100% what this lever is for. I was never able to activate it. You know, I Googled it. Seemed like it may be to do with opening the doorway that we did previously that was locked when we came down that main path. It could be used for that. It's going to be a couple of robots in this room. Lucky enough, I took that one, that first one out fairly quickly. But you know, sometimes I feel like the game just knows you're doing a little too good, and then it just starts to pick you off, playing really cheap moves out of nowhere. Very frustrating. But that lever on the right, maybe it could be a part of a side quest line later on. Maybe it could be something to do with possible different choices you can make in the game. Not 100% certain. We will also get a STORMHAWK axe in the left side of this area. But from what I read on Reddit, everything from my Googles on it didn't seem to have much value. A lot of people just speculating that you could possibly get to this area before entering from the front side, and that's how we'd open it up and explore the rest of the capital. But once we get to the top of this, or take this lift up to the top here, we'll have one of those really irritating giant guys. You know, I guess you'd like to call it the Iron Giant, but it's just a stone giant in my opinion. Pretty sure they call it a golem, but yeah. You know, I think of these names after I say things, and it just, you know, it's just one of those moments. Sadly enough, this is the one type of golem that doesn't have the weak ankles. He doesn't have that Achilles heel, so it could take some time to take him down. And inside a closed space without the horse, he can be quite irritating. But there's a couple of moves where he does kind of stick on the ground. You'll eventually be able to take him down fairly quickly. But sadly, no loot from him. But we'll have a chest over here on the right. This is going to give us a certain talisman that slowly recovers HP over time. Later on in this video, we'll end up getting another talisman slot. I started to use it. It's kind of extremely beneficial in my opinion, just for the simple fact that, well, before we go on to that, we'll also take a teleporter that's going to actually give us a divine tower out in the middle of the ocean. I believe this is for Melina or Melania. So one of these bosses that we'll see in the next area coming up. So pick up that lost gracelet, or we've already picked it up. That one up at that tower right there, just to make sure that we can come back to that later and activate that great rune. But I believe that was the boss that I read on it about. I can't remember specifically. I could be butchering the name. I butcher just about every name inside of this game, let's be real. But from that point, we'll immediately just double back into the round table copycat. And over here on the right, like I told you before, there's going to be a lost grace in this room back here, but also a smithing stone. I believe there's one other item. I believe it's a painting. And I'm still not sure what the paintings are for, but if it's loot, I'm picking it up. I'm taking everything that I can. If it's an obtainable item, it's coming with me because it's going to help us out later on, for whatever reason that there may be attached to it. But from this point, after I've checked the walls, seeing if there's any illusionaries out there, we'll be heading back over to the right, and we'll start to climb up this root system, or I guess it's technically the branch now, since we're out of the ground. Maybe it's the trunk, I don't even know, but there's a few ERDTREE warriors up here that we'll need to take out. Very easy, very simple guys. They're generally not even going to be able to attack you by the time you even get close. You shouldn't even take any one bit of damage from these guys. Very simple. But as we get up here to the top, we'll need to branch off over to this left. There'll be one item for us. Now, occasionally they will spit some poison that's going to be instant poison damage to you, or instant max poison to you. So you'll have that damage over time, sadly. Sometimes you may be able to avoid it. I probably just got caught off guard by that guy, but we will have a illusion of Godfrey or Godfrey. One of those Elden lords from back in the day. A smaller version of him, but as long as you make that summons, you should be able to make quick work of him, and that's where we'll get the extra talisman slot. So now, if you already checked the round table area and talked to the blind woman in there, we should have 4 talisman by this point. Going to be extremely beneficial for us. Now you'd think there'd be a piece of loot over here, but sadly enough there is not. But from this point we'll start heading up over here. Now there's going to be a troll back there trying to tell you to jump across. Not ideal, trust me. But jumping down from here, sadly enough this is going to be one of those moments where I kind of just go off just looking places. Do not jump over to the left side. I didn't see it until just as I jumped that these were somehow just open pits inside of a room. I mean, who designs this kind of thing? But over here in the back left, we're going to have another one of those somber smithing stone, and just over to the right, I believe, nope, there was nothing inside of there. Now, just down here, we're going to have a lift that actually goes down, but we're not going to take it just yet. I was just checking out the area inside of the gameplay footage, trying to make sure everybody can follow along as much as possible, not trying to make some of those cuts that pretty much lose you. And, you know, next thing you know, it's like you're trying to figure out where did I go. But we'll head up that branch, head out to the right, and just over to our left, we'll be able to jump up on the rooftop to try and get that hanging purple item inside of the middle of this room from that other branch. Now, I believe over here on the right, we've got a chest that's going to have an ERDTREE bow, giving us a bit of that holy damage with it. Could be a pretty solid item for those out there that are going to be the archers. We'll have some celestial dew over there and need to kick down that ladder. We'll have another one of those books over here, giving us a bit more, probably towards the phase side of things with those holy spells. But from that point, we'll be able to jump back over to the right onto that balcony. And at this point, we're going to have this type of mini-boss in a ways. He's a boss in a dungeon. I believe it's a Black Knife dungeon, something along those lines. I can't remember the name of it. Haven't done a guide on that just yet, but there is a guy that you can find behind an illusionary wall back in there. We'll get another one of those holy spells from that giant couch, I believe. I don't know. But this is going to be the point where we get into the next boss fight, main boss fight. If you want to stop the footage now, stop it now. If you don't want any spoilers, I'm going to be skipping the cutscene, so there's going to be less spoilers to this, but if you don't want to see this, jump out now. Now, just outside, you can have the one-eyed woman actually come in with you. You can summon her as a added person to fight in this, and it actually makes it a whole lot easier just to have that champion with you. You know, it's going to be that one time the maiden really helps you now. Morgott over here has got a few different tricks when it comes to this time around. He definitely does some of the same old tricks, but he's got a sharper stick with him this time, and it's got some magical abilities to it. But honestly, if you just make that summons with you, it's going to make it a whole lot easier. You're going to be able to pump that damage in, and if anybody tells you that you didn't actually beat this boss because you added summons or something along those lines, you know, just tell them to keep eating their bowl of razor blades. I mean, there's no point to just keep punishing ourselves even more if we have the ability to make this somewhat easier. The whole point's to enjoy the game, and if the option's there, man, just take it. Just have some fun. Alright, we've had enough of the boss fights that just overkill us. And enjoy it for a moment. Just take him down in that one run. Now, you will be able to speak to him while he's laying on the ground there, so get a little bit of that conversation and just behind him, there's going to be a doorway that we cannot get into just yet. It's going to be a part of the main quest line. We'll need to get a few other things done before we head into there. Not sure whether or not that'll be, end game type of moment, but just at that Lost Grace, we may have a conversation with the maiden. I can't remember. I did try to leave out a lot of those spoilers as much as possible when it comes to these guides. But from that point, we'll be heading back to that main room, or the room in which we had that holy book up top, and the lip that I showed you earlier here on the left side. We're going to need to head down that now. Now, just down here, there's a couple of items that we can grab up. Over here on the right, I believe there's just going to be a statue. But there is a couple of enemies down here, some of those fire dust flingers. Bit of consumable over there, and just back here, we're going to find another one of those scarabs. This one is going to be golden footsteps for whatever reason. There will be another Crucible Knight. Always a frustrating fight, but lucky enough, we've started to get them down. Easy peasy. But again, it's another one of those moments where you kind of just wait, get in line with some of the footsteps patterns that he's had previous. This one's a bit quicker, so it can be a bit frustrating, but we'll get another spell out of that. Now from this point, we're going to be doubling back from whence we came. We're going to start heading towards the thing that looks like the Colosseum. After I have a little look-see around, we'll head back up those staircase, then up the lift. That's going to be the area where we fought the golem. When I was playing back this footage, I almost thought I missed a completely new area, but turns out I've already been there. But we'll jump up on top of this branch now. You don't want to jump down. You want to go over and then jump over on that rooftop that we were on earlier as we were coming up. There'll be a couple more of those ERDTREE warriors. And then we'll be able to jump down over here on the left. Well, I jumped over on the right, but either way it works. Now, there will be a bigger boy over here. If you remember this guy early on, he was a part of a dungeon. Essentially, I called him the God of War boss fight. But this time around, he doesn't have the hammers chained to him. Instead, it's an axe with that one. But we will see another one up in front of the Colosseum door up here that will have the dual hammers. But should be able to take him out fairly quickly. He gives us some pants that are pretty much worthless. We'll also have a talisman right here. Well, that one skipped by pretty quickly. Can't remember what it does, but I believe it's another one of those that raises attack power while we're at max health. One of those that I'm not exactly too keen on. But just back here on our left side of this, we're actually going to get a pretty interesting weapon. I kind of want to make a build around this. It's just a spike fist. I kind of want two of them, so I can just start beating people with a couple of spiked fists. I'd like to take that into some PvP action. But from that point, we'll start heading over to the right, or just before that, on our right is going to be another smithing stone. But we'll start heading over to the right side. It's going to be another item we'll get on the right side before we head back to the main entrance and sadly have some sad news from it. But we'll grab up another finger thingy. Now, with the front door of this Colosseum, I had to look it up on Google. I was like, is there some type of side quest with this? Why can't we open it? Why can't we get in? I thought it would be some type of side quest boss fight. But apparently, from what I've seen on Google, apparently people are talking about this as a cut content that could be DLC later on for some type of gladiator PvP DLC that could be coming in the future. I'd be really interested in that. That would be something I'd like to check out. But from that point, we'll need to head back to the ERDTREE Sanctuary. We're actually going to pick up one more item that I was not able to just kind of fit in with the linear path on this. But we'll head back down that lift. I know we may be doing a little bit of backtracking, but trust me, we're already going to have to head to another Lost Grace just after this. But we'll be grabbing up a legendary weapon over here on our left. We'll need to jump over this railing right here, and we'll need to climb up this weapon right here that's protruding from this building. And up on top of this, we're essentially going to have a smaller version of the weapon that we're standing on. That does a bit of lightning damage, but it is a legendary item. Requires quite a bit of dexterity, 40 right there, so I am definitely not able to wield this, but there may be something else to this. But right after that, we'll need to head over to the East Capital, Lost Grace, that first one that we grabbed up as we came in. And then we'll need to take that lift down. Now we'll be heading through the doorway that at the beginning we opened up, and we'll be able to exit this area and head into the next area so we can further progress the quest line. So I'll be showing you how to get there and a couple of things that we'll be able to grab up along the way. I believe this is going to be another gold rune. No, it's just going to be a blood clot. But we'll start heading along the right path. It's going to be more than a few enemies over here. A couple of them could be a bit dangerous, but if you get the jump on them, you should be able to take them out fairly quickly. It's going to be, I don't even know what to call it, enraged lion monkey. But we'll have a perfume slot right there. Over here on the right side, a couple of dogs, a couple of those flying monkey, or monkey human, monkey Neanderthals. You know, I'm never going to remember the name for any of these type of creatures. It's always going to be a new name every time I see them. But we'll start heading up the staircase. Over here on the left, we'll have a couple of items to grab up. I believe this one, possibly another gold room. No, it's going to be another consumable. Over on our left side, we'll need a drop down. There'll be another one of those Neanderthal monkeys. We'll get a somber smithing stone just behind that tombstone. And over here on the left, we're going to have another one of those bigger boy lion, monkey, Neanderthals. But over on our right, here in a second, you'll notice after we take down these flying monkey Neanderthals, there's going to be an item that I did not grab in this gameplay. It's going to be just on our right, just behind those tombstones. So do grab that before moving on. But that's going to be the only thing that we missed on this run, or at least for this gameplay footage. I just couldn't bring myself to just go back in and then, or essentially go through the footage, the hours of footage, and just find that one moment where I came back to that and grabbed it. But just after that, we'll start heading up the staircase over here from that lift. And there's going to be a couple of those flame pole guys. You want to take those down fairly quickly. There will be an archer behind us, so do be sure to get him before you actually go into the menu. But we'll have a further increased damage reduction when it comes to flames from that talisman. There'll be one knight in front of us. Shouldn't be too hard as long as we just hit the ankles of that horse. It's going to be dropped to the ground fairly quickly. And then just stun lock him into death. There will be another knight as well. Going to be that archer, so be ready for that. Now up ahead, we're going to have another scarab. Now this scarab is quite interesting. You'll notice here in a second. He's quite different from the rest of those scarabs. I did not see that coming, but we'll get another somber smithing stone out of him. And from that point, just kind of checking to see if there was anything back here. But we'll start heading towards that next building in front of us. Now I believe this building's going to have a lift in the middle of it. We're not going to take that lift just yet. We're going to head over to the right before we take that lift, as we're going to hit the Divine Tower and activate that great rune that we got off Morgott back there. Now, on this bridge, we have an interesting kind of double boss fight. We'll be transported to a zone that makes you look like, or it makes it look like the game has completely broken. Not sure exactly what's going on. You know, everything just goes black, but we'll have a gold rune in front of us. You'll essentially need to start walking around for these guys to spawn. You know, I was just kind of sitting there like, what do I do now? You know, what's coming after me? I'm surprised I didn't pull out my lantern. Probably would have been a good idea, but after a bit of running around, you'll notice that you're going to need to push in certain directions before they actually spawn. But these enemies aren't too hard. These bosses aren't going to be anything overly special, and they're pretty squishy, to be honest. You'll be able to take them out fairly quickly. Just pull out that summons, get them to aggro it, and just keep melting them. And we will get a summons out of this. And we'll promptly get a cutscene or loading screen and then be spawned at the other end of the bridge. And then we'll be able to grab up this Lost Grace and then head into this Divine Tower. From this point, we'll be able to take a lift up as soon as we step on that middle platform. And I believe, I can't remember if there was any loot as we came up through the staircase on the side, but checked every one of these walls just to make sure if there's any one of those illusionary walls. You can never trust which walls are going to be the ones you can actually move through. The further I progress in the game, the less these walls seem to be anywhere, pretty much. But I'll keep trying. Now from this point, we'll be able to grab up a Lost Grace on our right, and we'll be able to activate that Great Rune here. It's going to further increase our max health with this Great Rune. So we will want to, well, depending on which Great Rune or what class you're playing, this could be something beneficial for you. And this is definitely one of those moments where I completely forgot that we have to put it on as we sit at the Lost Grace. So this whole time I have not been using these Great Runes, I'll tell you right now. I just make this game harder on myself. Don't know why. It's just me. But we'll put on that Great Rune, have a little bit of extra health now, and then we'll be portaling down to the Lost Grace that we grabbed at the bottom. That way we don't have to wade through all that or all that time just going down the lift. Just save yourself some time. Just use the loading screen going back to that Lost Grace down below. There'll be a couple of enemies. We'll be able to take them out fairly quickly. But then we'll start using this lift to get down to the next area, which is going to push us forward into that next snow-covered zone. Ooh, forgot to take that out. But essentially, we'll put on the lantern. It gets a bit foggy out here. You're essentially going to find yourself having a hard time seeing in portions of this next area. I really hate the fog in this area. It is way more irritating for me, especially when it comes to looking for loot. It's just one of those moments where I kind of like, we could have left this out, especially in big areas. But this is Elden Ring, and they've got to make things difficult on us. But we'll have more than a few of those tiny soldiers out here. Just reminds me of that movie Toy Soldiers. Every time I see these guys, good old 90s film. Probably one of the best live-action animation ones that I've probably seen in a long time. But be careful around those guys. They can be quite devastating. But we'll have a gold rune up on top of this. Then we'll be able to promptly head down. Now with all these tiny soldiers, sometimes it may be a better bet to just go on foot. They can be hard to hit from the horse, essentially. Sometimes those swings just seem to go straight over them unless you target lock on them. So sometimes it may be better for you to just simply get on foot and start moving like that. Now they will throw some poison bombs as well that'll instantly cause that full-on poison damage over time to you. Can be quite frustrating, but lucky enough it's not like the Scarlet Rot. It's a slow bleed. But from this point, we'll be able to head over to the right. I'm just trying to make sure that I cover every location over here. We'll need to jump over. Do be sure to jump over. There are going to be some cliff moments right here. Even the tiny soldier fell over the edge. But coming up, we'll have another boss fight with a gargoyle. And this guy is pretty strong, trust me. But we'll have a skull on our right side coming up. There's going to be more than a few of these scarabs that replenish our health and replenish our mana, or mana pots and health pots. But I believe it's coming up. God, it's so hard to see inside of this fog. I'm telling you. And there's a worse area than this, trust me. You start progressing into this area, or progressing into this next massive zone, there's going to be more than a few spots that just seem like a blizzard where you just can't see. Can be frustrating. That's going to be hard to make a guide on that one. But over here on the left, we've got that skull sitting on the side of this cliffside. We'll need to jump over onto the left side of the skull in order to get into its mouth and grab up that loot. After I've checked the edge all thoroughly. You can't go underneath it. Would have been a good idea to put some loot under there. Don't know why they didn't, but to each their own. But over here in the cheek of him, we'll need to get up inside there and grab up that next somber smithing stone. Now there'll be nothing else inside of here, so we'll just jump straight out. And over to our right, we're going to have another golden seed. Can't remember if there's any loot over here. At some point, I just got irritated with how slow walking and running was, so I just wanted the horse back. Just jump off any of those other moments that I start getting a little aggro from the little soldiers, or tiny soldiers. Pretty much toy soldiers. Wouldn't mind having one of those guys as a little figurine in the room. But up here on our left, I believe, is going to be where that that gargoyle boss is. Sadly enough, we can't jump up on top of here after we take a good long walk through this snowy countryside. Just trying to make sure I get every inch of this area. There's going to be that gargoyle. Now, this guy is devastating. Pretty much one-shot me. Watch out. Don't know why I was looking at the map there. But this time, we will be able to summon in this area. So do be sure to get that out, considering this guy can be quite the heavy hitter. But lucky enough, there is a checkpoint location just outside. We won't have to go back to the previous Lost Grace. Forgot to add that as I spawned in right there. Some people may be confused in that moment if they died as well. Probably should have said it a little bit ahead of time, but lucky enough, we'll be able to walk back in fairly easily. But we'll also get the halberd from him and I believe an axe from him. And both of these weapons will actually have some strong holy damage to it. So this could be pretty beneficial for you. I don't know why that was so slow right there, but this is going to be the Gargoyle's Axe. Going to have that nice holy damage to it. So anybody with that faith class, this could be something beneficial for you. It's interesting how we can have some of those intellect melee, kind of like magic melee and faith melee type of builds going with this. Very interested in checking out some of these builds later on. Doing some videos on that later. But from that point, we'll be able to head up inside of here. Now, there's going to be some butterflies over on the left. Over on the right, I don't believe there's anything over here. But we'll start heading inside of the room just behind us. And this is where we're going to have one of those main lifts. We'll need a medallion for this. I believe we already have it from killing Morgott back there. There'll be the blind lady over on our left. Now, this lift is also going to be used for a different medallion that we'll need to find the second piece to just beyond this in the next zone that we'll be going into. I'll be doing a guide on that, and another one of those moments where sometimes there's a troll writing on the ground. Don't listen to him. But from this point, just below us, the circle just in front of us, you're going to need to pretty much hit triangle or Y just right there. You know, I got kind of lost for a second, wasn't exactly sure how to activate this, but it's going to be right there that we'll need to activate it with that medallion that we have, and it'll give us a cutscene that lifts us all the way to the top. Now we're going to grab up the map and the Lost Grace checkpoint for this, and that'll be the wrap up for this video. But just up here, you'll notice the map is just in front of us. We'll be able to grab that up. Really doesn't fill out too much of the location in front of us. As soon as we grab this up, you'll notice once I pop it open, I mean, it's pretty thin map right here. But it'll give us all the information we'll need in order to kind of progress into these next zones just on the left and right of it. Very easy, and just up ahead, we're going to have that first Lost Grace. That's going to be the Lyndell Royal Capital City Guide Part 2. Wrapping it on up, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hope this one helped you out. We've got more than a few great items out of that area. Was a bit extensive, and we may be back for some side quests later on, so lucky enough, we've got all the spots covered and all the Lost Graces that we can, or that we'll possibly need in order to come back and get any of that stuff done. So any of those moments where we might have needed an item or getting to one of those locations or side quests later on, I'll be able to point you in the right direction if we make that guide and somebody watches that later on but hasn't been through it. Yada yada, we're just rambling by this point. Anyway, guys, if you'd like to see some of this content live, hit that link down in the description. Follow me over at Twitch. Going to be streaming daily from this point forward. Finally, we've gotten caught up with some of these videos. It's taken me a bit of time. I've had to cut down on my stream time recently, but now we're going to get into some more manageable areas that's not going to take me quite as time to edit out and push out. But on that point, if you'd like to see more Elden Ring content like this, hit that subscribe button. But hopefully you learned something. Hopefully it helped you out, and have a good one.